गुलाबी मुखड़ी केवली छजीरे नाककी नथुनी केवली छजीरे
Welcome to Himalayan Echo's digital edition. The session title in discussion with food chronicler Rushina Munshaw Ghildiyal and Master Chef Jatin Mallik is Himalayan superfood hyperlocal cuisines. I'm looking forward to hearing about your culinary experiences and gaining insights from both of you today. As a Pahari, I've grown up hearing about the health benefits of eating madua roti, jungar bhat, cooking hari saag in an iron wok, eating nutrient-rich dals like bhat, gehet, tempered with jambu, and savoring quaint vegetables like fiddlehead ferns, rich in antioxidants and minerals to boost the immune system. There are so many superfoods that are grown and consumed locally. And I'm therefore very excited to be here today for this session, to be in conversation with you, hear about your culinary journeys, creating gourmet experiences with superfoods, culinary chronicling, and the idea of not just hyper local, but also global, making the food industry more sustainable. So welcome, Jatin and Rushina, both of you.
Thank
Let's
you.
start with talking about your culinary journeys over the years. You both have such a successful career in this field. Jatin, you've created New Delhi's iconic restaurant Threz, and Rushina, you're the country's pioneering food blogger, food consultant, and a culinary chronicler. When did both of your journeys begin, and what inspired you to take this path?
I think ladies first.
Well, first of all, I must come and visit Tres now that I've read so much about it. I haven't been to Delhi in a very long time. So,
All right, you're forgiven. Since you haven't been to Delhi in such a long time, so you're forgiven. And next
I'm
visit
dying
for
to come. There's so
pleasure.
much stuff happening there.
It is. I think lots happening, but look forward.
So quickly, because I can be very, very long about telling my story, but just quickly, I'm not trained in either hospitality or journalism. Both were, the career of food writing found me entirely inadvertently. I took to it really well. And I basically self-taught my way through a whole bunch of things. I started out as a food writer. Then I added food blogging to my list of um, uh, introducing myself in different ways. Then I went on to start my own culinary consulting company. I opened one of India's first kitchen studios and shut it in 2019 of December. I ran it for 8 years. I am now in the process of transitioning into a different phase of my career, which is that of chronicling and documentation. I intend to restart the studio in a different avatar, more of an incubator for small businesses and an idea lab. And yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. I've been in the business wearing various hats for almost 21 years, 21 years. Yeah, 21, 22 years actually. Yeah.
Lovely. And you will hear more about that as we go along, and especially the chronicling bit. Jatin, what about you?
All right. I am a trained professional chef and been a chef for a little over 20 years now. But I didn't become chef purely out of wanted to be a chef. I had no idea about what a chef is all about. But like a typical Punjabi boy, a typical Punjabi household where food was a very integral part of everything. Definitely, it was not all that gourmet fancy food, but food. I'm from a very Kashmiri background, so Kashmiri food played a lot of role. Being army kid, so whole little pudding, barbecues were part of the whole growing up scene. So I was pretty involved in food. I was very curious about food, and then it came a choice as a career. I think the whole fascination of food sort of intrigued me. I was curious about it or what it is, and then I had a little chat with a couple of people before taking as a career, and my grandfather sort of guided me through it, and he guided me to some people where I had a conversation with them where they told me what this industry is about. And back in the day, it was all about working for hotels and being part of one of the big chains and being secure about it. Well, my culinary journey started through that, where I was purely out of mistake, purely out of an accident, but it was mostly led by my father's thought that whatever career you choose, try to excel in it. And that sort of stayed with me. And that till now, that's part of my whole approach in whatever I try to do. Well, I've been a chef with various couple of hotel chains, then I've worked in Europe, learned the ropes there, figured out what's the whole scenario of food is about. And then I'd seen a transition happening in the food scene in India in somewhere around mid 2000, 2005, 2007. That whole scene was moving towards standalone restaurants, and restaurants were evolving up. People were getting more and more out of the whole five-star cultures. More and more concepts were coming up. A lot of scene was developing into cafes, bistros, and Indian restaurants and takeaways, and all that boom was happening, and food was getting sort of defined. And that sort of fascinated me, and I said, okay, why not I take a plunge and be an entrepreneur. And in 2012, I started Tress. And well, it's been a roller coaster journey, ups and downs about it. We've been pandemic, pre-pandemic, learning the ropes of being an entrepreneur and learning the ropes that, okay, fine, it's just not good food, which probably brings people in. And there's lots of things which go into it. So, well, I think the hair loss can be blamed to that. And so far, well, it's been a great ride. It's been a great ride. Absolutely fascinating and exciting.
Right. Exciting times. We're going to dig a little deeper. Jatin, you describe your way of cooking as style from different parts of the world, and yet you remain rooted in the local in your approach, substituting imported ingredients with seasonal produce from local vendors, making the process more sustainable. In fact, your motto at Trez is "Let's get local." So, could you tell us about this?
So, when I started my career, I just wanted to be a chef. As I grew up, I sort of wanted to specialize in a certain type of cuisine. As I grew, I realized that a particular cuisine is not my calling. So I did a lot of Oriental food. I did a lot of Indian food. I did lots of coastal. I spent a lot of time down south. And suddenly I realized that I've sort of developed as a professional where I like to play with ingredients. I like to play with flavors. I like to play with techniques. And this whole thing, when we were doing our own restaurant, and that's the time, like we didn't want to do any cuisine-centric restaurant. We didn't want to do a particular genre of food. We wanted to do food which is flavorful, where we as chefs can lend our expertise to ingredients, treat them well, sort of put in our expertise on it, put up our culinary experience behind it, and make something out of it. And that purely led to that. Why are we looking for something which is coming from Europe, or something which has to come from Australia, or something which has to come from far out? Why not look into our ecosystem and lend our expertise to it, put our experience behind it, and treat it, and then see what comes out of it? And that was the pure ethos with which we operated. We opened Press. Until now, that is our motto, where we try not to go far out. We've got a beautiful coastline. We've got great stuff happening from the hills. We work with great like Mushroom Research Institute in Solan. I remember we used to get some prawns there, and we used to grow our own shiitake. Portobello, I remember now it's abundantly available. Earlier, 8-9 years back, I remember sending some samples, growing it, trying it, putting my hands on it, how it works, working with some potato farmers, trying to grow some potato crop. And sort of that has been our motto, that we do not want to get too much of produce which is not local. Our focus is to get local produce. We use a lot of bhat dal in our restaurant. We use those white rajma, which is the cannoli beans or whatever you want to call it, the pahadi rajma. We use even hemp for that matter. We use timur. So these are some of the ingredients we use. I said, but our ecosystem has so much to offer. And I, as a chef, need to lend my expertise to it to make it interesting.
That's really wonderful. Moving on to Rushina, you've written a wonderful book, A Pinch of This, A Handful of That. which is a food diary and a collection of recipes of the choicest family dishes. There are food memories and stories associated with each of these dishes. And in fact, you're working on a similar book on Uttarakhand. Could you read or share some of your favorite food memories with us of this writing journey?
Oh, absolutely. And actually, it's the perfect time to talk about this because I've actually been working on that book on Uttarakhand food for almost 20 years. It's where my career started from in food writing. But it's taken its time, and I'm kind of glad because through this pandemic, I spent most of the pandemic most of the pandemic, I was in Uttarakhand. And it gave me a chance to actually live in the ecosystem of the mountains. While I've been working on the book all this time, it was always through these 10-day trips that we used to take during holidays and stuff because life was in Bombay. And living there for almost more than a year and a half gave me a chance to get into the food cycle of the year, ingredients as they come on the plate. I got hands-on experiences of making specific things that are typical to Uttarakhand food with the women in my family. So like my mom-in-law is actually a bastion of some really heirloom recipes. She and her sisters today are carrying forward traditions passed down from her parents and earlier. So, the thing with Uttarakhand food is it's just coming into its own. A lot of our, it's a sort of what I call a caricature of a cuisine at the moment, because there are certain highlights that everyone talks about, the chesu, the udad, the rajma, the hemp, the jakia, all. But as I've been studying it, I've realized that Uttarakhand food is not one. It's not one cuisine. It's many micro-regional cuisines that make up the fabric of Uttarakhand cuisine. And we in Uttarakhand are just beginning to discover that. My mom-in-law's family comes from a region in Tingri. And there are certain signature dishes that she brought into the family of my father-in-law. One of them that is very, very unique to our cuisine is the nal badi. I don't know if you guys have ever come across it, but so you and you
don't get that here now. Even locally, they make the other buddies, but not the nal buddies. I talk to people. It's lost in a way.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, you get a commercial version. So I'll tell you, Jatin, but essentially the commercial version that's available in the bazaar is nothing like what my mom and her sisters make. It's basically, the badi paste is basically coated on colocasia stems. So Arabi ki jo stems hoti hai, पत्ते का पतियोड़ बनता है और stems को उड़द की paste में coat करते हैं, उसको सुखाते हैं. And this was a sort of a sustenance food for when you didn't get fresh vegetables or, in the monsoons or the winters. Yeah. And now the thing is, it's not easy to make, which is why the commercial one just doesn't sort of hit the right note because it's too much of the dal paste and too little of the stems. And this time when I was there, I actually made them with my mom-in-law and I realized the nuances of making them. Like it's so eco-friendly, right? So the stems are knotted together at the narrow end. They're hung on a clothesline. And then it's not very easy because your udad paste has to be the right consistency. Thick enough to coat, but thin enough to be able to spread it. You have to spread using the same technique as how you would put meat on a seekh kebab. और उसमें थोड़ा सा इधर उधर हो गया तो it just falls off the udad paste. And then you have to, it's an art, it's a skill, and I was so fortunate to learn how to do it, and then so many other things. But this one was I did all the buddies with mom, but this one is unique to Uttarakhand. The same concept is made in other places, but not this way. Now people take the easy way out They either chop or puree the colocasia and mix it with the batter and make it like most other buddies. But the nal buddy is called the nal buddy also because it's a pipe. The urad dal forms a pipe. The colocasia dries out in the middle. So you get like a little hole in the middle. It's like a pasta kind of a thing. And it's simple to make. It's absolutely delicious. So these are the kind of things that I knew about because I documented them. But I actually lived the whole plant food cycle. We ate things that I'd never even seen before. Like we made sabji out of silk cotton buds. Those cotton bud, the cotton tree, there's one cotton tree which naturally throws out cotton at a certain point of the year. I forget the name of it, but it looks like something out of the fruit, basically, or rather the bud, it sort of splits open and the seed comes out and it looks like something out of the Jurassic era. Then there are things like lingre, the pahadi nimbu, the pahadi mooli, pahadi lehsun, all those things. We went into the mountains, so we carried a whole bunch of stuff back. And then I was ridiculous because I spent half of my time trawling through everyone's houses and stealing all the old bhaddus and utensils that I could find. For the photo shoot for my book. So it was I think for me it was invaluable. There's no one particular memory, honestly, Neeraja, but I would say that if you want to write about a regional cuisine, you have to live in that regional cuisine. And I didn't realize that until I spent this time there. So I'm kind of really glad that this book has happened when it's happened, rather than, when I was doing it earlier, because I think it's going to be richer for it.
No, it's beautiful. When does it come out? When would it be out?
I'm pushing for next year, for hopefully Uttarakhand Divas next year, but fingers crossed. Let's see.
Okay. Wonderful. Looking forward to it. Yeah, fascinating. So given today's environment, there's a lot of focus on health and well-being. People moving towards more conscious, mindful eating, and health and lifestyle changes seem to influence our food choices today. So would you agree with this? What is your take on it, and how do you cater for this growing need? I mean, this is a question to both of you. Just jump in and
I'll let Jatin answer this one since I hogged the limelight on the previous one.
No, well, there is a great knowledge about it, and actually there's been a great demand about it also. Now, I remember when I started my career, the lactose intolerance and all that, different type of allergies. On a basis, I get one or two clients who sort of ask for it, and so earlier I thought maybe it's about being a fad, and maybe it's all about being a little health conscious and things like that. But then as we sort of started catering on a menu and on our requirements and we suddenly realized there's more people are getting more sort of intolerant towards these food chain. There is some changes which has happened into our lifestyle diets, which has made people intolerant about it, and suddenly you see lots of allergies and things coming into it. So yes, there is an awareness, great deal of demand about it, and I personally, as a professional, also feel that it opens a great market for you, and it sort of sets you aside. But also, I think as a chef, it's my moral responsibility also to sort of cater to that sort of need. And there is a great availability of grains and pulses and flours which are available in our ecosystem, which probably have sort of died out. Like shakkar is sort of moved out. We've sort of moved into refined sugar, and all bajra, jowar, and all these grains have sort of moved out, and all refined flours have moved into it. And so I think if we just push ourselves to tackle this need, it will push the envelope of creativity also. It will sort of push the envelope to think out of the box. It will help to give, apart from giving people that people who are intolerant to these sort of allergies, and people who are sort of have these dietary needs, there is a need for making people conscious and aware of healthy eating also. And
Right.
I see it's increasing day on day. It's it is here to stay. This is for real. It's just not bad, which is gaining momentum globally. People are getting health conscious and all that, but there is a need for genuine people who are actually getting sort of a lot of
Yeah, no, I think
food
that's
allergies
a
that's
a
food range in particular.
right. No, I think this is a great segue into my next question, which is about the Himalayan superfoods. And each of your tryst with these. I mean, also if you can share some examples. Jatin, you were talking about incorporating these into creating some gourmet dishes, and then Rushina, share more about how you've used these to style your menus.
So, just to kind of combine both the questions. So I think all of us through the pandemic have realized the value of health, not just of ourselves, but also of the environment around us. I mean, I don't know if you remember the first few weeks of the pandemic, how everything was so clean and blue because nobody was going out, not doing anything. I think we've all become more conscious, and that whole aspect of mindfulness towards our food, mindfulness towards our environment is driving a lot of changes, both at an individual as well as a community and global level. We've all realized that all these things like immunity and all that stuff, it's not like one Shaktiman ka kavach ki ek din jab zarurat padi to turmeric latte pee ke wo, kavach pehen liya. It doesn't work like that. It's a sustained approach to how you eat, exercise, sleep, keep yourself stress-free. And these are all practices that have actually been, traditionally around in our ethos in Uttarakhand. It's been part of, if you think of the lifestyle in Uttarakhand, it's actually, it's not designated, but it could very easily be designated as a blue zone because traditional lifestyle has also led to high immunity and longevity. And this comes also from our food. We grow our own food. We're proud of our ghar ka, ghar ki dal, ghar ki. Everything is grown locally. We eat very locally, very seasonally. In fact, I think Uttarakhand food defines what there's this movement called soul food movement. And it's not a philosophical thing. It's an acronym for seasonal, organic, unprocessed, and local. And all of these things are very, very true to Uttarakhand food. And in my opinion, there is so much traditional, medicinal, functional benefit to the food we eat. Like Jatin was talking about bhang or hemp seeds being on the menu. Today, they're being celebrated as a superfood. But in Uttarakhand, they've been part of the menus of Kumaon for centuries because they grew locally. And because Uttarakhand was cut off from the rest of India because of political borders and geographical borders, we just have got so much that we've adapted of our locally grown stuff, whether it's jakhia or jambu, whether it's, bhang or all the different protein that we get from the different dals. I think we have 40 or more different types of dals we consume. And today plant forward is this big, huge term, and Uttarakhand is as plant forward as it gets. It's as sustainable. It's as, it uses every resource. It uses kitchen waste, everything. There is no wastage of resources in our traditional diet systems. And everything has a thought behind it. If you look into the science aspect of why we eat the way we do, all the answers are there. We've just not realized them and we're just finding them out now.
Wonderful. I have a lot of questions, but I think we have another 5 minutes to go. So just quickly to wrap it up. So each of you, what is next in your culinary journeys? What are you currently working on, looking forward to doing next?
Well, I am getting more deeper and deeper into what's available in our local ecosystem. I've actually started working with a couple of this whole. I don't know. It's not an NGO, but this organization by name of Kilmora out of Mukteshwar and Nainital. They do. So I've just sort of starting to deal with what all produce they grow, a lot of flowers they make. They make a lot of gehet ki dal and bhat and all that. I'm trying to first source it from there, and also I'm trying to introduce this into my whole mainstream menu, just not in a very little bit sparingly, but also create dishes around it, because I feel one that pushes the envelope of creativity also, and second also it sort of it's genuine conscious eating. It's where probably the food, I am aware of the source, I'm aware where it's grown from, I'm aware what the health benefits of all these grains which I'm putting into my system, and also I want to move away from this mainstream flour based, sugar based, and the very traditional typical formats of cooking. And it's where I need to make people also aware of it, that yes, if and I feel as a chef, it's my responsibility also to make people aware that if we use these ingredients in the right manner, they can be tasty. It's not all that tasty food is all with laden with butters and cheese or flours or maida and just whole little whatever it's been sort of sold outside. There was these grains were used in the past. If you look at Ayurveda and old school recipes, uh, they were part of our mainstream eating, ragi, jwars, and all that. So why can't we make them into restaurant menus? Why can't we bring them into restaurant mainstream stuff? It's all where chefs just have to think out of the box. They have to just push the envelope. And I think that's where I'm at. I'm working with ingredients there. I'm working with spices. I'm working with pretty much everything which is growing there. I want to not depend on things which I have to get them from outside.
Wonderful. And Rushina, what about you? What's next for you?
Well, I've got like 4 things running parallelly. So I've just started work on the next edition of the Godrej Food Trends report, which is going to be exciting because the dining out scene is really picking up after the pandemic. I have
this is a collector's mega edition this year, right?
Yes.
Just share some of your food trends, and it'll be nice.
Well, we saw a lot of pride in culinary identity over the last 2 years. Thanks again to the pandemic, a lot of our trends were accelerated. So a lot of pride in culinary identity, where we come from, what is our food. We are exploring food like never before. We saw a lot of conversations around protein-rich foods. We saw a lot of conversations around coffee. Coffee is huge. Indian coffee. Everything Indian is huge. So, we are discovering our own food producers, our own farmers, our own ingredients, and, exploring all of that in a huge way. So it's only going to get more and more interesting in the years to come. And then, of course, the Uttarakhand book will continue. And I have a very exciting project that's on just now, which is my culinary chronicling course. A launch of a zine around chutneys. So we're documenting the chutneys in India. And we're going to hopefully in November, in time for Christmas presents. And and then that course is going to I'm going to keep doing that course because we have new batches of cohorts of students coming in, and they work on these projects to document various aspects of Indian cuisine. So I'm going to continue that.
Okay. It's been just so wonderful to, chat with both of you. There's so much more to talk about. There's so much you all have done. I think, but it's plenty of food for thought. And thank you so much, both of you, for your time. It's been truly insightful and very enriching. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
In fact, looking forward to hopefully meeting physically in future.
Yeah,
that we couldn't do it offline.
Hopefully, and all the very best. All the very best, and see you guys. See you in Delhi soon. It's
Yes,
on the way to the hills.
Absolutely.
I should see you. Bye.